Track and field fans, welcome to Let's Run After Dark. It's almost midnight here on the East Coast. Excuse me, the best coast. Jonathan Galt is out on the West Coast, Eugene, Oregon, where the 2024 Ncaa Outdoor Men's Track and Field Championships have just concluded. He should be joining us later in the show. Right now, I'm joined by my genetic equal, much faster twin brother, Weldon Johnson. This is Robert Johnson. I've greatly enjoyed this meet. Washington's Joe Wascom has won again. The 1500, 339.48. Parker Wolf has beaten Nico Young and Kai Robinson and Graham Blanks in the men's 5,000. UVA's Shane Cohen, former D2 runner, wins the 800, 144.97. Georgetown's Parker Stokes wins the steeple. Should they take away some points for him wearing sunglasses in that one? Texas Tech's Caleb Dean ran 47.2 in the 400 hurdles, 4 to 3 peats by 1 point. I think a guy split 43.2 in the 4x4. And how bad was the announcing? Until these meets get yours truly on there, it's just John. And we are joined now by Jonathan Galt. I thought John was going to be in the mix zone interviewing the 5,000 meter runners. I think he said, "Screw it, I got to go live. I got to go live."
No, already done. They already came through. It was great. Talked to Kai Robinson, talked to Nico Young, talked to Parker Wolf. Yeah, the announcing, Robert, I didn't really watch. I watched most of these races live, but I heard Dwight Stones call the 4x1, and he messed it up 3 different times. It was just incredibly frustrating. And then Joe Wascom wins a thriller, and it's just like, and Wascom takes it. Like, again, I don't want to make this whole thing the focus, but that was like a freaking amazing race. Like, show a little emotion, Dwight. Come on. So anyway, let's talk about this meet. The year of Parker Stokes, Parker Valby, Parker Wolf. I mean, huge boom for Parkers. So awesome. But like, how good was that final day? Those 4 distance finals, all amazing races. Like, this is why we love this meet so much.
I'm glad you're in a good mood, John, because Weldon just said he didn't like the 5,000.
Oh, I mean, okay, it was more of an 800, but it's still fun. You had all the big guns that we were hoping for was still there at the end of the race. And then the guy who hasn't won, we have 4 NCAA champions lining up. And the one guy who hasn't won an NCAA title is the one who wins it. That's fun to me.
I enjoyed the read. I'm not going to downplay it, but a lot of times my take from NCAAs, I guess I already know Joe Wascom was pretty good, but sometimes NCAA ends and you're just like, wow, there's a star. And I'm sort of searching. There's still a lot of question marks heading into the trials. And I guess Joe Wascom delivered in the 1500. He could be a factor at the trials, but that event is so tough in the U.S., so there's nothing surefire there. Sam Whitmarsh, I was expecting a lot of things from. He's smiling in second place. That Virginia kid, my God, though, man, look out. Like that Robbie Andrews, that like 2.0. I mean,
Robbie Andrews and Nick Simmons. Those are the 2 guys I can't help thinking about when I see him. He goes back at the pack. He doesn't need to go out quickly, but my goodness, if you let him hang around, it's game over the last 100. He's the kind of guy, Weldon, who sneaks on for that 3rd spot on the Olympic team, because if he's anywhere close to it, he's going to be dangerous that last 100.
I guess I should learn his name. Shane Cohen of Virginia. For those who didn't see it, this is his 5th year. He was a D2 runner before this year at Tampa. I did run 148 coming into this year. Vinland Anna, man, the guy can find these guys.
Well, here's the insane thing. His PB was 148. He had made 2 NCAA D2 finals. His best finish was 6th. Last year, his fastest time was 153. And he's looking at some D1 program to land with. I'm just like, how did you even convince them to take a chance on you? And he just said, well, Vin and Trevor Dunmore, the assistant coach, they kind of looked at some of my race videos and they saw I had a pretty good kick. And they thought, okay, maybe it's worth taking a chance on that guy. Suddenly he's a 144 guy. He's the NCAA champion.
And he did it in the prelims too. He had a stick kick. And I'm like, wow, watch out for this guy. And for those of you who didn't see it, I mean, with 120 meters to go, he's essentially he's in last place. I think I got a photo of it here.
He was in last with 100 to go. And not only that, his momentum got thrown off because he got tangled up with the Indiana guy. People were wondering, is there going to be a DQ because there was contact? So he has to go extra wide just to avoid falling. And it doesn't matter. He still hits the turbo button. And Sam Whitmarsh was coming on as well. Look at Sam Whitmarsh was like 7th with 110 to go. And it ends up he's 2nd and Shane Cohen's 1st. It was just a totally bananas last 100 meters.
I mean, I don't want to jump ahead to the trials, but the speed the last 100 meters, Cohen was just so much greater than Whitmarsh. But Whitmarsh, both these guys, the first time on this stage, a faster race might help Whitmarsh. So I guess these are two guys who you could see on the U.S. Olympic team at 800 meters.
I mean, should we just break down these races? Should we start with the 800 since we're already talking
Look,
about it? Because,
no, we
or
should
Robert,
not start with
you've
the
been all right.
I would like Weldon to check his mic to make sure that his mic is on. He sounds okay, but we fixed up. If you're just joining us for the first time here, this is normally a bonus podcast exclusively for our Supporters Club members. We have one podcast every week for everybody, a second podcast for the Supporters Club. Join the Supporters Club today, letsrun.com/subscribe. But look, we can talk about the 800 later. Let's start with the 1500. That was the big one. That was much anticipated. I was doing research 5 or 6 hours before the race, and I thought, there's so many big names in this one. We've got the 3 Washington guys who've all won an NCAA title before. We've got Colin Solomon, NCAA leader this year. Adam Spencer, the fastest man in the field, the Australian champion at 3:31. And then you've got Elliot Cook of Oregon. And hell, after listening to the bonus podcast with Liam Murphy of Villanova, I started rooting for that guy. But I really thought it was going to be those big, what was that, 6 names, 3 Washington. Yes, those 6.
You mentioned Solomon and NCAA leader?
Yeah, I said him.
All right.
And coming into it, I started doing research. Like, have we ever seen a race where there's like 6 guys abreast? Like, everyone's got a shot. And I'm like, I don't think that's what's going to happen, but have we ever seen it? And actually, there were, I found 2 races with basically 100 meters to go. There's 8 men in it. I think it was 2010, 2015 NCAAs. One of those was with Centrowitz and Wheating. One of them was a forgettable race with the guy who just got banned from Save Sport.
Chad Noel, 2015. All right. Come on, Robert. Let's talk about today's race. I know you did all this research, but let's talk about what happened.
Well, what happened was Joe Wascom just was sensational. Like, his kick was insane. This guy went from 7th with 200 meters to go to 1st. And I think he was like a second back with even 150 meters to go. He really, I always say in the 800, you have 1 move. In the 1500, you might have 2. He had 2 today. And I went back, I've got the recap up on the homepage. And I was watching guys, people say tactics. Let's look at their tactics. He was in the back for the first 1,000 meters on the rail. Not a bad spot. But what is he going to do? He makes a huge move out to lane 3, maybe even lane 4 to move up right before the bell gets in 4th place. But then somehow with 200 meters to go, I guess that was such a big move that tired him out. Other guys started going. He's in 7th place. He was still in like a second back with 150 meters to go. And he just went from 5th to 1st in the last 100 and won it. Said afterwards he didn't feel good, but this was his last race. So I guess he could have come back, even though this is his 4th year at Washington. He had eligibility, but he says this is it. He's going pro. 5 in a row for Andy Powell's Washington guys, if you're counting indoor and outdoor mile. I just thought his kick was insane. Collins, I was watching the other guys, and I was kind of thinking, we're not going to have 6 guys battling it out for the win because I don't think there's 6 331 guys. I know Adam Spencer's a 331 guy. Spencer's got no excuses in this race. Neither does Colin Solomon. They had good trips. They were up front in lane 1 virtually the entire race, and they couldn't win. It looked like Solomon had the lead on the last lap until the final 35 meters. 3:35, he gets past. It's a 3:39 race. Good effort for him, totally tied up. Had to go to the medical tent. John can talk about that in a minute. But it looked like Elliot Cook, the newcomer to this level in the 1500, was going to win it. He was on the rail the entire race behind Spencer and Solomon. Somehow he made a tactical mistake. He's the only one that I think can feel a little bit better about this. He made a tactical mistake approaching the bell. He did not do what Centrowitz and those guys do when you're in on the rail. You shove people around, you put your arm out, you keep your spot. He ended up behind Wascom. But the reality is, despite never leaving the rail the entire race, he was in 4th with 200 meters to go, took the lead with 35 meters to go and could not win. Wascom he's got a sick kick. He wins again, and it was pretty amazing. Now, it wasn't amazing enough to me to think, okay, this guy's definitely going to make the Olympic team. I know he made the U.S. team last year, but this was not next level to me. I was not super, I think he's got a real good shot in a tactical race, but it wasn't like he blew all these guys away. I guess it's hard to blow a 331 guy away, but you're gonna have Nagoose, you're gonna have Hawker, and then we'll find out about Hobbs Kessler. I think tomorrow or Saturday or Sunday he's running a big 1500 in New York. We'll see where he's looking at. So I think Wascom's got a good shot at the team, but this was not something. I think Walden's comment earlier of like a lot of times NCAAs we've got, oh, this guy's at a new level. We've never seen this before. We've probably seen this from Joe Wascom before.
Well, I'll say this. He said after the prelims that he's had the best workouts of his life, and things have, I think it kind of showed it. I think obviously he's won NCAAs before, but to me, the fact that he could win, even though he wasn't always in the best positions, and he beats this field with guys who were either in better positions or didn't have to run extra distance or had smoother rides, the fact that he's still able to take him down, that to me is pretty impressive. And he was saying afterwards, I think if this was a 334 race, I would have won. I could have taken it at the bell. I think I would have won, but I'm not sure. What I would say though, this guy is one. I think he's praying for a tactical race at the trials, because if you look at last year's USA final, it wasn't a straight time trial. He's out there taking the lead from Nagoose. 2 years ago, he wins NCAAs with a huge move with 200 to go. Today, again, not a fast race. He wins it. So, one, he's got that dog in him. Like, he's just a championship runner. Like, this guy shows up and gets it done at the big meets. He'd not have a great outdoor season, but he timed his peak perfectly. So, Nagoose or Hawker, they can kick too, but I feel like if you're Hobbs Kessler, who has had some tactical errors this year, you want it to be a fast race at the trials because you don't want Wascom hanging around.
Yeah, there's a lot of question marks for that third spot. I mean, I think all three of us would expect Hawker and Nagoose to be on the team. In a lot of different race scenarios, I see them still making the team. I guess no one's going to let it just completely sit, but that third spot is wide open. This was a great run by Wascom, obviously. I mean, these other guys, Cook had a faster lap, 52.5. Like, he could be a factor. These guys can all be factors. Spencer's Australian. Colin Solomon, it's sort of interesting once you see these races, because once the gun goes off, and I'm like, no, I really don't expect him to be a factor. He just hasn't done it on this level. He ran a pretty damn good race. I'll give him credit. He tied up like the last 20 meters, sort of ran out of steam. But big picture, he was, essentially half a second behind Joe Wascom at NCAAs. Could that somehow revert at the, Olympic trials? Possibly.
Well, here's the other thing. He's the youngest of the group as well. He's only a sophomore. He's only 20 years old. And he said afterwards he had no regrets. He talked to Mike Smith. He's like, you had nothing to be ashamed of. You executed the race plan to a T. You went for it, and you just got beat. But he gave it everything he had. He was totally exhausted, went to the medical tent afterwards, then came back, did an interview. But essentially, he's like, look, I gave the absolute best, and I just got beat by some really good guys.
Great comment for Mike. I agree. He ran a ballsy race and came really close to pulling it off. I mean, what a great sophomore year. I mean, this is kind of what we were expecting, and last year, and he didn't really do anything. He made the meet, didn't even make the final, and goes home. He goes a star in high school, and I just think we're seeing a lot of good, positive stories. You had Jenna Hutchins for BYU. Like, it used to be like women didn't run well, they'd panic, and then they'd have eating disorders and never be seen from again. Now we're realizing, we've seen it repeatedly on the women's side now. You can have a struggle patch and get back. Colin Solomon, he kind of had like an Alan Webb year last year. It wasn't a great freshman year, but he didn't quit, he didn't transfer, and he was rewarded with a good thing. Now, a lot of people in the comments are talking about the Olympic trials. I'm not sure it can afford to be slow because Central needs the time. So people are saying, these college guys won't have the standard. I don't think they'll get into the Olympics. Wascom might be able to get in on his ranking, but a lot of these people just, like Elliot Cook, he can finish third. He's not going to the Olympics, right? There's just no scenario. Now, when I was thinking about Cook, I looked up the Pac-12 rates. That was a 354 race. So the slower the race for him, the better. But, yeah, I think Solomon, Wascom, could either one of those guys finish third at the trials? Yeah. But let's see what Hobbs Kessler has to do, in the next a day or two to see where he's like. But I'm still extremely confident in Goose and Hawker no matter what happens. And then the third spot is still, but Kessler's got a global medal. It's crazy that we're discounting him.
I'm confident in Nagoose and Hawker, but it would not blow me away if one of them misses the team if it's a slower race. I just think it's the 1500. It's an Olympic year. You've got a very good crop of college kids, and you've got Kessler in there. You've got Resurgent Centro. Like it wouldn't totally blow me away. The one other thing I wanted to say about this race, the other two Washington guys did not run very well. Nathan Green, the defending champion, was 10th. I'm kind of surprised because you would think a 3:39 race, that'd be right up his alley in terms of winning. Like he had a great kick last year, hasn't been quite as good this year. And then Luke Hauser tried to do what he did indoors and just didn't work. He totally ran out of gas. Again, not quite the same guy as he was indoors, but I mean, Washington winning 5 straight mile 1500 titles, like having 3 guys on the team at the same time with a combined 5 NCAA titles in one event. Are we ever going to see that again? I mean, that's absurd.
Yeah, Andy Powell, the head coach at Oregon, maybe he should be the head coach at Oregon. The head coach at Washington, super props. I mean, to win 5 in a row is absolutely amazing. But also these results, because the 2 other guys, I mean, that was so disappointing, right? I mean, I'm shocked. If you told me Nathan Green's going to get 10th and Luke Hauser's going to get 12th, I'm probably not thinking Joe Waskom's winning the race. So that shows one of the best 1500-meter coaches. It's still hard to get this right all the time for everybody. Like, this isn't a computer game. These are human beings who go out there and have to perform. And the amazing thing with our sport is there a lot of times aren't a lot of upsets. It's how consistent like the great ones can be. And yeah, like the thing. I mean, Nathan did this last year outdoors. I would say outdoors is harder to win than indoors, I think.
Yeah.
But
if I'm Wasco, I'm just kicking for third.
At the trials?
I'm
yeah.
not kicking for first.
Last year he kicked for first and he got second.
It's still a joke that we don't have quota reallocation. We shouldn't have to be worried about who's got the world ranking. What does the pace need to be? It's just insanity. The sport is insane. All right, enough 1500-meter talk. Let's go to the 5,000 because that was the other marquee event.
Oh, wait. Can I just say one other thing I talked to Andy Powell. I thought it was very interesting. They don't do the final reps of workouts together. He'll have Waskom, Green, and Hauser do like the same workout, and then he'll pull them aside and they'll each do the final rep like separately, basically, because he wants them all going into the race thinking they can win. So I just thought that was a neat tidbit chatting with Andy.
That's amazing. I was thinking that we should have had I scored off the chart in a DF4 when I was 18 years old in some sort of IQ test. I was thinking that we should have Andy Powell, and we could do the same thing for Sean Brosnan, but we should have made Andy Powell put in like an envelope and then we seal it in a glass box. Like
who he thinks going to win. Yeah.
Yes. Who's going to win? But we don't open it for 10 years. So we would have done it today.
Oh, who he thinks is going to be the best guy. Oh, okay.
No, like
yeah.
Tonight for this race,
yeah.
and then also in the future. And we don't want to, he doesn't want to tell people now. And then you do it for 10 years. Then we open it in the year 2034 and we see what happened. The same thing with Sean Brosnan.
They need to do this. Bury a times capsule underneath the Dempsey track and then dig it up 10 years from now. Figure it out. Okay, let's move to the 5K.
Speaking of Sean Brosnan, his high school protege, Nico Young, the guy that can never win the NCAA titles, suddenly was just on fire all year in track. Like he goes sub 13, goes sub 27, wins the NCAA indoor 3, wins NCAA indoor 5, and runs like 3:34. Is that right? 3:35, 1500. Gets into this race and loses. And I don't know if Walden's here, if he can prove it. Like we didn't really publish predictions, but on the Let'sRun.com prediction contest, I did not pick Nico Young. Now sometimes I try to be super smart, but I didn't pick Parker Wolf either. I picked Kai Robinson. I just thought a lot of times the guy that's on fire does not win this race. Like he's been running so well indoors, is it going to still be going on now? And this is not his biggest priority. His biggest priority is in like 2 weeks. So he got outkicked in a, what was it, a 13:57 race?
54, 13:54.
And people are saying he waited too long. He didn't go all out. I don't know. Like, I was wondering heading into this, like, is he vulnerable in the tactical 1500? Like, Parker Wolf ran 350. Nico, yes, beat him pretty badly indoors, but Parker Wolf was going for it indoors. Parker Wolf ran like a 354 mile all alone at the ACC meet. Like, he's damn good. Coming into this, I was like, I know Kai Robinson can be competitive with Nico Young. I don't know enough about Parker Wolf, but in these other races, he's just been destroying everybody. And then today he got a win. So big for him. Big for him.
Yeah,
I don't think Nico should feel too bad. He's going to make the team at 10,000, right? I mean,
well, with this, yeah, he's got the stand. He's in very good position. I mean, look at it this way, Robert. Nico Young closed in 152.4 for his last 800 meters. Okay, 55.18 last lap. But like, if you told me he closed in 152.4, I would have been like, all right, he's going to win the race. He got beat by Parker Wolf's really good at running. Like, there's no shame. This is a loaded field, and it actually kind of reminded me of 2018 when another somewhat overlooked Chris Miltenberg coached runner won this race, because there were a lot of studs in that field in 2018. There was Justin Knight, Grant Fisher, I think Andy Truard had won NCAA indoors. He was in that race. And the winner was a guy who hadn't won NCAAs before, Sean McGordy. Same kind of thing this one. Parker Wolf, he's lining up. Hampton Samuel's an NCAA champ. Nico Young's an NCAA champ. Kai Robinson's an NCAA champ. Graham Blanks is an NCAA champ. The guy with no titles wins it. And it's kind of what we've been talking about all year. It's like, all right, Kai Robinson was the king last spring, but then Graham Blanks shows up and he runs really well in cross, and he's the guy. Then indoors it's Nico Young, and outdoors, the early and outdoors it's Nico Young. And now Parker Wolf wins. The reality is all of these guys are pretty similar in ability, I would say. And it's just like if you time things up right. But the one thing I talked to Parker Wolf about, he was like, look, our program, we don't really put that much emphasis on indoors. Like, I was pleased with how I did, but I kind of knew that we were going to have more room for improvement outdoors. And he got to show it today. That's basically what he said was the difference between getting crushed by Nico indoors and winning tonight. Was he was just a bit sharper compared to where he was in March.
Linda Wallace says, I don't get why Nico didn't time trial since he's so much faster. He runs much better races when the pace is hammered rather than slow. But he's not that much faster. Graham Blanks has run 13:02. Kai Robinson has run under 13:10, right, John? So it's hard to lead the race. It was pretty warm, right? What was the temperatures today?
Yeah, it was like mid 70s. So no, I mean, if Nico Young leads that race, he's probably going to, one of those guys is going to be fresher after him taking the win the whole way.
I just think Nico in a 5,000 is somewhat vulnerable. Like, he's got a good 1,500 now, but whatever. I enjoyed this race because it was tactical, very slow, and then we see Graham Blanks. Three of us are Ivy Leaguers. He's an Ivy Leaguer, and we're like, I'm just like, this guy's been injured. What kind of shape is he in? I'm just like, this guy, like, I don't care that he finished, fourth or fifth or whatever he finished. If I'm a shoe exec, I'm really like that. Like, he looked fit. I'm like, he's got balls to steal. Like, this guy's barely been racing. He's just going for it. And then, I pushed the race, led for like 2 laps, gets past in the last lap. And then I just was watching Kai Robinson the whole time. I'm like, Kai Robinson looks like he's jogging to me. His face was so smooth, so calm. Nico Young was grimacing from 3 laps out. He's not a beautiful runner to watch, that's for sure. And, I was just like, I'm pretty confident Kai's going to beat Nico. And then just based on the way they look, which isn't really fair because some people look terrible, like Paul Radcliffe, and they're great runners. And then I was like, wow, could Wolf do it? And he did. So congrats to him. I just think, it's good to have 3 great Americans. I mean, Wolf is a junior, right? Or is he a senior?
Yeah, he was so class of 2021 in high school, so this would be his third year of college. Yeah.
So yeah, he's younger than these other guys.
Yeah. No, I mean he's really I think he went a bit overlooked because he his senior year, the full cross country season, that was like it was a COVID year, so there was no NXN and there was no Foot Locker. There was just this running lane, which he won it, but he was the Gatorade Athlete of the Year. Turns out he's really good as well. So
Yeah.
definitely exciting
So
for American distance running.
C-Town fan on YouTube wants is kind of has the Robert Griffin III take. He says, "Why doesn't a lesser known runner try to push it?" And this is why they need me on a broadcast because like, oh, Robert Griffin III asked in ESPN. He's like, if it's slower, does this mean more people have a chance? No, it doesn't. They're still going to kick with like 3 laps to go, and as John Kellogg says, even in a 1500, when it goes tactical, in college race, normally it finishes in the results of their PRs. Now, if their PRs are very similar, you can have third might be finished first, first might finish third, but it's not like 12 finishes first. So like it's just I agree though. Weldon Johnson, God bless his soul, I think in the 2000 Olympic trials, like they were jogging at like 14:30 pace. So he said, "Screw it! I've got this website. I've got to get people on it. I'm going to the lead in my yellow Let'sRun.com singlet." And he led the 5,000, John, and that's why you have your job because Weldon had some balls back
Well,
in
I'm very glad he did that. But the one thing about Blanks though, I do wonder if he has like that top gear in the last 200, 400 that's necessary to sort of really get it done at the pro level. Because if you watch how he ran the cross country races and how he's liked to run in the past, he really likes to put, or at least how he ran tonight. And I think in the past, they like to push that last 1K, last 800. Can he succeed in a race where they're pushing the last 400, 200? I haven't seen him race enough in those kind of scenarios to totally say because he's been banged up indoors. But I do have a little bit more confidence in some of those other guys over maybe the last 400 as opposed to taking off a little further to go.
Well, I'm not. I mean, there's question marks about Graham Blanks, but I'm not going to criticize him for this race. I was
no.
I was very impressed with this race. I was shocked.
Totally.
He took it with 57. Last year, people said, "Oh, Nico was so brave." I feel like Nico was flailing at the race last year, trying to make this move of the mile out, and just wasn't. He wasn't ready to win. Graham has already won these. I thought he would come in here and just not be fit, not be confident, and somehow he just was like, "Bam, I'm going." I mean, we're in 57. The problem is he faded the next lap and ran 58. So I was impressed with it. Oh, he may not have that top end clothing speed. Okay, well, who also didn't have it? Galen Rupp, right? Galen Rupp couldn't win anything, and then all of a sudden he got it. So I sort of evaluate these things differently. He did win this stuff, and back to Parker. Clearly, the guy's very good indoors. It's just amazing how a meet can change you. Now, this one was so slow. I still don't know how they ran this slow. But so do you put like an asterisk by it or not? But after indoors, I was like, damn, that guy had a good meet. Because Nico Young was all world indoors. And without him, Parker Wolf would have been double NCAA champion. I mean, he was so good, but sort of didn't get any accolades because he finished second. But I guess, do you guys have any concerns about the slow pace?
No. I mean, great when Grant Fisher won his NCAA title, the winning time was like over 14 minutes. The guy beat a totally loaded field, and he had a sick final 800, and he played the last lap tactically perfectly. So I'm not going to say, oh, he only won it in 13:54. No, he's been at a very high level the entire year, and he timed his peak well and ran a terrific race tonight. So I'm not concerned by the time at all.
Interesting. If you're talking about their ages, so Parker Wolf was born in July of 03, so he's 20. He'll be 21 next month. Nico Young Graham Blanks just turned 22, so he's basically 2 years older. And then Nico Young is in between. Nico Young turns 22 in July. So basically, Blanks and right? If I did the math,
Blanks and Young are a year older than Parker Wolf. Yes.
No, 2 years.
No, Nico was born. I know Nico was born in July 2002. Parker was born in July 2003. He's 1 year older.
Oh, you're right. Yeah. So, it's encouraging for U.S. distance fans moving forward. You know, I mean, you've got a 20-year-old American that's run like 13-13 and just 354 in the mile and just won his first NCAA title. Like, that's
Yeah,
good.
put it that way. A 20-year-old American winning NCAAs in the 5,000, that doesn't happen that often. So yeah, it's.
But Weldon made a good point. Well, I guess Kai Robinson's there, but I mean, Nico wins this race. It's the all-time greatest, like one of the maybe the greatest. You know, debate it. One of the greatest distance seasons ever for collegiate, U.S. collegiate. I cannot wait though. If Parker Wolf and Parker Valby have a baby, the Let's Run Forum would be so on fire. It would probably be not quite as high as when Tirnish Dababa and
Celestia
who's her husband?
Sahine. Yeah.
When they gave birth, and you know, people knew she was pregnant. They didn't know they were going to give birth to an American. That was what was just shocker. You know, normally it's like, is it a boy or it's a girl? Here we have two all-time stars in running having a baby, and they're like, it's an American. It was born in America. So that child should be. I mean, it's not that far away, John.
Yeah, I think it was right around when I got hired by you guys. So that kid's probably like 9 or 10 now. No, the most interesting thing is what if they get married? Then it would be, does Parker Valby change their name to Parker Wolf? Do we have two Parker Wolves? I mean, that's the real crazy scenario.
Or does Parker Wolf change his name to Parker Valby?
It's a
Okay.
you know, it's a new world. All right, let's move on.
We're having fun, John. It's a new day here. It's 12:07 a.m. Good morning, everybody. Good morning.
Let's talk about the 800.
And then we also need to talk about at the end of the show, did Parker Valby cheat yesterday to win the women's 10,000?
And what about the Brit who won the men's 100 meters? Came over, Washington State transfer, and now we've got a British NCAA 100 meter champion. When's the last time that happened? Louis Hinchcliffe.
Well, I didn't know if the guy never spoken English before. I could not understand what was wrong with his speech. So he's British?
No, that's called an English accent. Weldon. Yeah. Oh, sorry, Robert. Yeah. So
no,
let's go to this.
It sounded like a speech impediment to me. It didn't sound English to me, but
no, it's just a regional dialect. We've got many dialects among our island, okay. Robert.
800. The UVA kid, the former D2 runner, he's got a sick last kick, but it
Shane
was fascinating
Cohen.
watching Sam Whitmarsh of A&M. He's, you know, the pre-race favorite. He's one of the fastest guys in the NCAAs, although he's never competed at this level before, which was, I'm like, we expect this guy just to rock NCAAs, even though he's never really been here. But I thought he was great. Like, he did. I was like, if I've never been in the NCAA Final Four, I'm freaking out. Favorite, holy shit. He was like laughing, and he was like laughing and smiling at the start line. And then, but with 100 meters to go, I'm like, oh my God, he's going to finish last. Like, he was fading back. And then he just like zoomed in and out, and it was like a snake. And he almost won, except for Cohen of UVA, who had the most sick last 50 in the last race, in the semis, did the same thing in the final, and wins at 144. It was just wild.
Yeah, it was an awesome race. It's why the 800 is so great. But watching it, you know, that first lap, I was like, it was 51. You know, I was kind of thinking like, man, shouldn't Sam Whitmarsh like be in the front and trying to lead this? Like, he's the fastest guy in the field. And I was like, you know, what's his face? Not Parker. I was obsessed with the Parkers. Shane Cohen was at the back of the field, comes through in about 52, and I'm like, well, that's his comfort zone. That's exactly where he wants to be, and then he can still kick off this pace. So worked out well for him. But then, you know, I watched the whole outcome, and I'm like, all right, what could Sam Whitmarsh have done better? Well, he leads it, but you'd still need to run like 144 low or 143 high to get rid of Shane Cohen the way he was kicking. That's just really hard to do, especially in your first NCAA final. So my initial reaction was like, maybe he's got some regrets, but then watching it, especially the way he closed, he fought back from a tough position with 100 to go, turned out pretty well for him. And I think it just would have taken a monster effort for him to lead it and shake Shane Cohen the way he's kicking right now.
Yeah. The first 800 meters, it's one of the best things in the sport. I feel like you don't see it much on the professional level anymore, John.
No, because I mean, it's just hard. Everyone's really, really good.
Yeah, I guess you have to run extra distance. There's people in the way, but you used to see it a little bit. But
Dave Waddle, 72 Olympics.
The change of speed didn't look that as impressive as this, although the finishing time was faster. But I mean, it's just a cool story. Stuff like this. All the dreamers out there, Let'sRun.com, where dreams become reality. Shane Cohen is your guy tonight for sure.
I mean, the guy was a 148 guy entering the season, and someone asked him like, "Did you think you could end your season as the NCAA champion?" He's like, "Kind of did actually think best." I'm like, "What, dude? Like making NCAA? I know he made NCAA's a couple times in D2, but yeah, he's had some injuries last year, and then he just gave a lot of credit to his training partners. He's like, hey, I got some good coaches, and really like the setup. This is his first year with UVA, but he feels like he gets along with the whole crew really well. And I did ask him,
definitive move being made. 200 meters remaining.
Oh, here's the last 200. And I asked him, how familiar were you with Robbie Andrews before this year? Because if you watch this is exactly the same thing as Robbie Andrews did in 2011 to win. It was a 144 race. He went from last to first. It was awesome. And he's like, I really didn't know that much about Robbie until a few weeks ago, but then people started noticing my running style, and suddenly there were a lot of comparisons. So I look at him and I see Robbie Andrews and I see Nick Simmons, and it's awesome because that's a really fun style of runner to watch.
I mean, I would love to sit Laniano down or somebody. But come on, what are you thinking? Best case scenario, you wanted a few points at NCAAs, right?
Oh my God! Sorry to get excited. This just shows you how bad the production level is in this TV. I mean, in this broadcast. I just was watching the video that I put up. I think people could see it who are watching live on YouTube. All these highlights are on Twitter. We have a page on Let's Run. Go to Let's Run. We've got all the race highlights if you didn't see it. I didn't realize the dude literally went from last place to first place in the last 100. It was insane, but they didn't get excited about it. Did they even show a damn replay on TV about? I mean, did they show this guy's last look at him go? I mean, they should be so excited. This was Dave Waddle. You're right. It was insane. It was now. I'm surprised he didn't get DQ'd because when he went wide to go, the guy right in front of him fell.
Well, so, did you notice, Robert? This was under review for a long time, and there was some contact between them. It looked like, and I was like,
that's a DQ.
Man, did you wait, Robert? Did you watch it? Are you just saying this is a DQ because you think it's a DQ, or you actually have the evidence? Like, you definitely convinced it's a DQ. Why do you say that?
Well, I just was watching it, and I was just like, oh my God, I didn't realize that the guy that won was because just logically thinking, the guy in last place, there's Whitmarsh. I mean, Cohen who wins is in 8th. There's a guy from Indiana in 7th. Whitmarsh behind him is going wide out to lane 3 to move up and win this race. And the guy in 7th place falls down when the only reason he'd fall is no one near him, except for someone behind him. He must have gotten hit from behind. If you get hit from behind, that's a DQ. That's a DQ. Now, it wasn't intentional. The guy in 7th wasn't going to do anything, so I'm glad they didn't DQ him. But
well, you don't know that. The guy was in 8th, and the guy who was in 9th won the race, and the guy who was in 7th finished 2nd. So you can't say that for certain.
Well, I've been watching these other races. I saw the semis. I'm biased by the semis. Now, I did think about when I was watching the women's 800 yesterday. I forgot which heat it was, but one of the girls fouled another girl right before the finish, and I'm like, that's a foul. You DQ I think it was Oklahoma State or Clemson. You DQ her for that. That's a foul. But I'm like, I'm not putting another girl in the final unless I see when I see the other times. It was clear to me. It was 10 meters before the finish. This girl is going to run roughly 2:02. Does 2:02 make the final? No, 2:02 wasn't close to making the final. You do not put her in the final. So you have to sort of evaluate was the guy in 7th going to kick or not? But what happened? Did you ask anyone about that? Did that come up?
I meant to ask him because I didn't ask them about it. I should have, but I forgot to ask Cohen about it.
We should have a 7th place guy from Indiana who got knocked over. What do you think? Now, I guess I would be, if it was me, I don't know. I'm always saying I wouldn't care. I'd be like, well, screw it. That guy won.
It's not a DQ. There's no rule that says if someone falls from behind, he should go. At first, when Robert was saying this, I thought it was absurd. But I rewatched the race. It's just those two guys together. There's really nobody close. But they're both sort of trying to go wide. If you clip someone's leg behind you and fall down, you're saying that's a DQ on the guy behind you? No. This wasn't a gross foul. People's guys can clip in close contact. This is not a DQ.
I'm going to change that.
Any stretch of the imagination.
by the rule book, it's probably a DQ if you cut someone behind. But the more I think about it, I'm glad this isn't DQ. It's like baseball. Like if they don't call it, we're not going to go back and just make it up. Alberto Salazar style with what's your name? All right, so that's the 800 steeplechase.
John's calling this one of the greatest steeplechases of all time or something. I'm sort of shocked here, but
I don't think I ever said that. I said it was a great. I said we had 4 fantastic finals. We had 2 guys battling it out over the final water jump and over the final barrier. That wasn't a good race. You didn't enjoy that?
I feel like this one's sort of standard steeplechase that you see at NCAAs. Like, what you think? Usually, a guy's like a straightaway ahead and wins it.
Kenneth Brooks was last year.
I felt like that was more exciting. Impressive time. New blood.
I mean, okay, yeah, it's fine. It wasn't the greatest steeplechase in the history of the NCAA. It was a pretty fun race that was decided on the final 200. That's perfectly acceptable to me.
Okay, this could have been like the most amazing night because it's interesting to me. Like when I was coached in the Ivy League, some of the other coaches didn't like Ncaa shenanigans, but you can't deny he's been successful wherever he's been, whether it was Dartmouth, Stanford, Oregon, now UVA. He was getting bashed on the message boards, the world famous Let's Run.com message boards, like ever since he's been hired at UVA. I don't know how many years he's been there, but it's like he's too old, he's lost his touch. And I was like, you guys are just morons. Like, unless he has a mental decline, he's going to be successful. Now, it's harder to be dominant in the year 2024 than it was in like the year 2005. But they had a guy win the 800. They almost had a guy win the steeplechase, Nathan Mountain. He was the number 1 seed coming in. I think he was going to win it. Like, I was watching this race, and again, I'm like looking at his face. He looked like he was jogging with 200 meters to go. I'm like, he's got this. And then going off the last water jump, he got so far forward, I'm shocked he didn't just faceplant. And then it looked like he pulled up injured. So did you get a chance to talk to him, John? Did he say that impacted him? He ends up second, but I was like, that had to kill his kick. It didn't. All of a sudden, it looked like he wasn't even trying.
I didn't talk to him. I talked to Parker Stokes, the winner, so I can't tell you exactly what happened. But yeah, Stokes said he kind of had a rough final water jump as well, and just trying to hang on as best he could. But it's interesting because Parker Stokes he ran 8:19 at this meet 2 years ago and finished 3rd. And I think he was like 20 years old at the time. And I was like, wow, this guy, that's a breakout race. Like, he's got some serious potential. Yeah, 8:18 for 3rd in 2022. And then really does very little last year. You know, he makes it to NCAAs, doesn't even make the final. And I was like, what happened to this guy? Like, he's an 8:18 guy. And now, like, 8:18 could put you in the contention to make teams in the U.S. And comes back this year and, you know, feels like, yeah, okay, he's back to where he was 2 years ago. I kind of asked him. He was like, yeah, a lot of people have asked me what happened last year. He didn't really seem like he enjoyed talking about it very much. Basically, like, confluence of things. It wasn't like it was all injuries. It was kind of like, you know, sometimes you'll just see athletes have this breakout race and then they kind of expect to be at that level the rest of the season. The rest of the year. It doesn't always work that way. So good to see him back running again. And can we call him a dark horse for the Olympic trials now? I guess there's really only one spot available the way I see it, because I think Bohr and Rooks are essentially locks. But, you know, he's 8:18 PB NCAA champion. Like, he could be in that mix for that 3rd spot.
Yeah, he's definitely a dark horse or a contender for the trials because it's a weak event, especially after those. It's a weak event, sort of essentially period in the U.S. now, and the 3rd spot really is up for grabs. So, and then the back history, clearly a lot of talent. Good run for him. I mean, Nathan Mountain, assuming he's American too, like another guy who Ncaa resurrected.
Look,
Any one of these guys could put it together at the trials and make 3rd steeplechase spot.
that's a lie. We know the 3rd spot's either going to Supporters Club member Dan Machowski. By the way, if you're just joining us again, this is a podcast that's normally exclusively for our Supporters Club members. Let'sRun.com/subscribe. get a free t-shirt. It's literally the greatest t-shirt you ever owned. It's one of my proudest accomplishments in life is to source these t-shirts. Get the long sleeve Let's Run Classic. But we have a Supporters Club member, Dan Michalski. He's
Michalski.
He was fourth at the last Olympic trials. He's a lock, or Evan Jager. If Evan Jager decides he wants to break 8, he'll make the team. If not, Michalski will make it. I'm kind of kidding, folks. But, yeah, that's the steeple. Screw the steeple. Is that it for the distance events? That's it, right?
That's it. Yeah, unless you want to rehash the 10K, which I mean, the 10K was fun. Hampton Samuel fell with 900 meters to go and won the race, but I don't think we really need to spend time breaking that down.
I want to
you want to go to Valby, Robert?
Yeah, Parker Valby. She moves the needle, and people are talking about. There's a Runner's World article saying she might get up to $800,000 a year. I was very surprised. Like Cheryl Lords Butler, who we love at Let's Run, wrote the article, and I was like, "Who's feeding her these numbers?" Like it seems it's weird that these numbers are getting thrown out. Like, who wants this article written? Or did Sarah just come up with the article idea?
I talked to an agent at this meet. I said, "What do you make of these numbers? 650K to 800K?" And the agent told me that sounds about right to me.
And people who Let's Run.
Of course, the agent's going to say that.
Well, we had one of the most famous articles on Let's Run. We polled agents. We've done extensive surveys how much people make. And I heard Weeding was making like $750,000 at one point. But I wrote on the message board. I was like, okay. I heard that the Syracuse guy from Canada, help me out, John.
Justin Knight.
I heard when he went for the Reebok Club and got out of college, he was making like $400,000 a year. I've heard higher numbers for Hobbs Kessler. I'm like, look, if Justin Knight's making $400K out of a year, I can see an American blonde chick who's got a bubbly personality, according to John, and is good looking. Let's be honest, easily making double that. So $800,000 seemed like a shock to me at first. And I was like, no, that makes sense. I mean,
well, the other thing,
Justin Knight, one of the most brilliant points on the forum. I was like, in track, you're not paid by performance. You're paid by marketability. And she's an American, she's a woman, and she's attractive, and she's good at running. But so
and she moves the needle, Robert. Like she does interviews, and they're odd. I just gotta say this. Like Parker Valby, I've never interviewed someone like her. Half the time she doesn't answer the question properly because she just gives a joke answer, and half the reporters don't realize it's a joke, so it falls flat. But the ones who do realize a joke want to give her a chance to let it land before. It's just very odd. Like people, if you watch these races, that's kind of what she's like. She's kind of goofy.
But odd can be a negative connotation.
The
first time I heard her, I loved it. I said, "This is fascinating. It's interesting. It's different." So odd to me means different. I see why shoe companies would eat this up, but the question is, one, will she make the U.S. Olympic team this year? That's a lot of money to pay someone who literally maybe will not make the Olympics. But then I could see her blowing it out of the park and running some ridiculous time and running closer to 30 minutes to like this year. But she doesn't have a lot of mileage on her legs. She's had some cracks at these 5Ks, and it's not like she's running 14:30s. So I think there are a lot of question marks. We'll probably have some answered after tomorrow.
Wait. She hasn't had cracks at these 5Ks. She soloed a personal best NCAA record 14:52 in the NCAA final. Like, you put that in a pro race where it's rabbited to like 14:38 pace or 14:40, she's running faster than that for sure. She had a chance. She really hasn't had that many chances to get in like super fast pro races.
Okay, that's a good point, John. A 14:52 solo with a rabbit, what does that equal to? It's probably 14:30s. So
yeah. So no, it's very interesting because I asked her about the Olympic stuff, and she's like, "I'm just taking this one day at a time." Like, I actually don't think her or her coach Will Palmer seem to be focused on the Olympics at all. They want to show up and get the team points here. Because I asked Will after the race, I was like, "Did you ever think about trying to go for the Olympic standard?" In the NCAA final? He looked at me like as if I had three heads. I was like, "Well, I mean, she is in good position." He was basically, I think the thinking is, look, she's going to run the 5K final on Saturday as well. So, yeah, she doesn't. I don't think she seems to be at this point that bothered whether she makes the Olympics or not, because obviously once she gets to the trial, she'll want to make it. But I don't think it's the front of her mind right now. Front of her mind is doing well for the team, running well at NCAAs, continuing to win races and have fun. Robert, you're muted.
Thank you. That's what I said months ago. You're like, what's she going to do for 10? I'm like, she doesn't care. Weldon's like, she got to make the Olympics. No, why? They can still put her in ads. Nobody cares. She's going to eventually make the Olympics.
Well,
hopefully.
people do care if you make the Olympics.
But I'm getting criticized on the message board, and I'm going to have to talk about this on a regular podcast on Tuesday as well. I was talking about her salary and blah, blah, blah. And I said, from a performance standpoint, no American women distance runner is worth $800,000 a year, because I assume that's like as much as like Hassan makes, or the top women in the world. And the gap between like 30.50, which is Valby's PBR, and 28.55 is vast. But what about this statement? Because people are saying that I said that she would never break 30 minutes. I never said that. This is my statement. I said, I think the odds of Parker Valby never breaks 14:30 and 30 flat are much greater than the odds are that she ever challenges for a global medal on the track. Do you agree with that statement, yes or no, John?
Say the statement again one more time.
Parker, which is higher odds? This is the way to think of it. Which is the higher odds? That she ever breaks 14:30 or 30 flat? Or that she challenges for a global medal on the track? That she never breaks 14:30 or 30 flat? Or a global medal?
Yeah, I think it's that she will never break 14:30 or 30 flat. I think she definitely could do that, but I just don't think. I'd be surprised if she. I don't know. Here's the thing about her.
Wait.
We haven't.
Now I'm confused by what I wrote.
We haven't seen her, Robert, in like one of these tactical races for quite some time, because she's been just so much better than everyone else in the NCAA. Like the last time she was getting beat, I think was NCAA indoor. Sorry, no, it was NCAA cross in 2022 by Caitlin Toohey. That's the last time she lost to a college woman. She didn't run at USA Outdoors last year, so we haven't even seen that skill set of hers tested. Based on how she runs, I don't see her as a huge kicker, but honestly, we don't know because she hasn't been in those kind of races before.
Yeah, looking at my statement, I'm just thinking, I mean, Eilish McColgan did run 35. I think Valby's very, very good. But I think the odds that she breaks 30 flat are about 50%. 14:30, 30 flat. And
I think she has a better chance to break 14:30 than 30 flat. 30 flat, I think, is just, yeah.
Double your 10K time and add a minute. That's what I always think of the 10K. But I think that the odds that she challenges for a global medal are like 2%, 5%. I mean, way less.
I'm not sure I'd go that low because, I mean, it sort of depends on who you're going up against. Like Emily Infelt won a global medal. Molly Huddle almost won one. And I think Molly Huddle has a pretty similar skill set to Parker. Shalane Flanagan did win one. And Alicia Monson was like...
You get a watered-down year when all the girls are on the roads and win one.
That can happen, though. And you're going to... Eventually, Hassan is going to get a little older, and Sagai is going to get a little older, and Gaudet might be in the marathon. Like, now, maybe you've got women like Beatrice Chibet rising up to replace them. But I think right now it's going to be... If you could say... the talent in those events are really, really good right now. But when Parker Valby 5 years from now, is it going to be the same? It might be a little weaker, and maybe she's got an opportunity.
Yeah, I phrased it. Brother John on YouTube says I did not phrase what I wrote properly. It's true. It's almost 1 a.m. When my face has not been on the screen, I've been secretly drinking a National Bohemian. John, have you ever heard of that, National Bohemian?
No, it's a Czech beer, Pilsner.
It used to be the beer of Baltimore.
All right. Well, Nenny Valby takes. You want to get out? Can't hear you.
This guy, Daniel Black, essentially has the question, do NCAA coaches get bonuses for winning NCAAs? Isn't that a conflict of interest having Valby running 5K, 10K versus saving for Olympic trials? No, it's not a conflict of interest. Their job is to coach is to win the NCAA track championships. They're an NCAA college coach. Yes, They have bonuses to do it. Mike Holloway, I guarantee, has a bonus for winning NCAAs. I mean, seeing here an article. This is from a few years ago. His base salary was $321,000. He took home $734,000 that year with bonuses. So some of those bonuses were, I assume, were winning NCAAs. It's like the company wants you to win NCAAs. That's
right. No, it's very
simple.
simple. You're getting a scholarship to win. That's why they give you a scholarship to perform at NCAAs. If you want to focus on the Olympics, that's totally fine, but you turn professional. So, yeah.
And some coaches, like we saw with like their team's not in the battle or whatever, they will factor in the Olympic stuff. They probably do have, you can balance two things at once, but Parker's all in at Florida and it makes total sense.
She seems happy with it. So, yeah.
All right. Daniel Black is one of our better YouTube commentators, but
rest
we
of
haven't
this
talked about the big thing.
A lot of times NCAAs, John, we start off before you got on here, like the next stars are born. Oh, wow, this guy broke through. This guy could be an Olympic champion. I didn't see that tonight, especially in the sprints. The 400 hurdles, that was a great race. That was probably the standout, but these guys in the 100, 200, I'm not seeing those guys doing anything at the Olympics this year.
No, I agree with you. Caleb Dean, Texas Tech, he ran the fastest time in the prelims, 47.2. I mean, if it was 5 years ago, I'd been like, wow, this guy's the Olympic favorite. But that event is better than it ever has been. So, he might be. I mean, he could be in the Olympic final, but I don't think he's still got a gap to the very best guys in that event. But I mean, I don't know, 47.2. I'm interested to see what he does from the rest of the year. The 400, one of the guys I thought, like, coming into this meet, I'm like, all right, Christopher Morales-Williams, he could win the Olympics maybe. He was the world leader, still is the world leader. But this final, he just, he barely holds on to win it. He showed a lot of fight. I respect the hell out of that. He ran a tough last 100. There's like 4 or 5 guys abreast. It was really interesting finish. He holds on to win it. And I was talking to him afterwards, and he's just like, I was it was a battle to win this. I'm like, why do you think it was so tough? He's like, dude, I've run like 400 meter races this year. I'm just tired. It's been a grind. And so I was like, do you think that's going to be, an issue for you going to the Olympics in another 2 months from now? And he's like, well, I'll have some time between now and the Canadian trials, and I don't exactly need to win that. I'm probably going to be on the Canadian team. And then he did feel like the break between the trials and the Olympics, he'll have time to rest up and still be good. But we've seen this, like, it's a long season. If you're a college sprinter, he was running a world indoor record in the 400 back in February. So for him to go all the way to August, still being at that level, that's very tough to do, especially for a guy who hasn't been at this level until this year.
But yeah, he looks like he's going the wrong direction. But where the 400 is right now internationally, you're a sub 44.5 guy, you might have a shot. Could he take? Because last year he did nothing and still won the Canadian Championships, made it to Worlds. So could he turn this around in 2 months?
Well, I'm not writing him off.
I'm not writing him off.
He's very tired right now.
I'd never seen.
Wow, this guy's just still clicking it on all cylinders. But maybe that's not reasonable to expect the guy to click on all cylinders from January till August.
Yeah.
I agree. Like, watching him run, I was stunned. I heard about this indoor world record holder. I'd never seen him run before. He's got some like Central American father. I was kind of stunned. But I was just, in his interview, he acted like he ran like a distance race. This guy just wanted to compete. But just let me say the name, Steve Lewis, John. I know it's a long season, but Christopher Morales-Williams did not make the finals of the 400 at ACCs last year, and then he won Canadian champs. And Steve Lewis in 1988. And I'm going to give you the dates on this. Second at NCAAs on June 4th.
Wasn't it October where he wins the Olympics?
Yes. Third at the Olympic trials. Now, admittedly, he's getting faster between the two, though. So unlike Morales-Williams, who's running slower, Steve Williams ran 44.8 at NCAAs on June 4th. He runs 44.3. Imagine running 44.3 and only getting third at the trials. And then he wins the Olympics in 43.87 on September 28th. So there's a lot of time. The Olympics are in August. So
yeah. Then the other guy I thought could be a star, maybe coming into this meet, was Jacoby Tharp of Auburn. True freshman, ran 13.18 at SECs, ran 13.18 in the semis here. didn't have an amazing start. And I was like, wow, if he puts it all together in the final, we could see like a 13-0. And he shows up, and his start wasn't amazing. He had a good close and gets up for second, 13-20. Darius Luff from Nebraska takes the win, 13-19. Nice PB for him. So again, Thought was the guy. I'm like, this guy, he certainly has the talent to be a future star, but we didn't quite see him like emerge as like, oh man, you got to take me. 13-20. He's still going to be in the mix of the trials, but he didn't make that extra leap. And again, he's an 18-year-old freshman, so it's a little unfair to expect that from him.
And a bad start again today. So
yeah,
could he figure that out in the trials? And he's a sensation at the Olympics. Ruining it for Grant Holloway. Probably not, but we shouldn't underestimate a guy who gets a shitty start, runs 13-20. And it's kind of like a disappointing run. That's where he was. Okay. And I guess we mentioned Grant Holloway. The Florida did win its third straight title. It's funny how we don't really talk about the team title. It's it's an interesting concept. Fans kind of care about it, but it's pretty amazing. Obviously, Mike Holloway's an amazing coach.
It is amazing, but the main thing of the team title is how bad was the announcing. It wasn't that complicated. Heading into the final event, the score was.
It was a little complicated, Robert. Auburn led with 40 points. Florida was
35.
Florida had 35, and then there were two other schools, USC and Alabama, had 32. So USC, Alabama, and Florida all had teams in the final. Auburn did not. So if any of those teams won, they had a chance to knock off Auburn. But then also Florida had the advantage having more points. So Florida kind of knew if they finished in the top 3, right, they were going to take the victory, and they got third. So, yeah.
Look,
and this comment here on the game, Leroy Burrell gave the title away by not having a 4x4. I don't understand what that means. They had a good 4x4. They would have tried to run them in the meet. They that's not their forte. They're more of a 100, 200s school. Like, you can't. Well, if you had a really good 4x4, I guess they only needed one more point. But am I missing something here?
Well, I saw that comment earlier in the show, and I was like, what is he talking about? I mean, at the SEC, it's not like they just didn't enter the 4x4. At the SEC championships, Auburn was 9th in the 4x4. Now, admittedly, 9th is, guess what 9th in the 4x4 at SEC's is? 309. 8th place was 305. So it's not like he just didn't run the 4x4 because he didn't want to. But, John, it wasn't that hard to figure out. For Florida, who's got a great 4x4, to win, they need to finish 3rd or higher. And for the other teams that have 32 points, right? It was 35, 32, 32.
They needed to win and hope Florida didn't run well.
They would have to win. Yeah.
Or get second and tie with Auburn.
Yeah. Get second and tie. But when Florida was way ahead of the other teams, it was obvious what was going to happen. Like, the math was not that it can be complicated, but the announcer on the Ivy League, when they didn't hire me, blew it, and then the announcers today were like, oh, we'll have to wait for C, and then whatever. But did we talk about Valby Spikes yet? We have not.
No.
The biggest story of the night. So Daniel Black said thoughts on Valby Spikes. I love the move. So I've got no problem with a runner running in the Vaporfly, which is the marathon shoes. The marathon shoes are not allowed in World Athletics events. They are allowed in track and field events. I mean, they're allowed in Ncaa events. So Valby's got to run the 5. She's going to win the 10 easily. Don't pound your shoes. Like, back in the day, some people would wear trainers if they were way better than everybody else. They would wear flats in the 10,000. They wouldn't necessarily wear spikes because they didn't want to trash themselves. So I was like, smart move. She's wearing Vaporflies. And then people realized, maybe it was Chris Chavez, I don't know. They're Vaporflies, which are a marathon shoe for roads, with the spikes put in them, especially by Nike. And the more I've thought about this, I don't like it. I'm fine with Valby doing it. I mean, it's smart for her. It's smart for, I mean, but it's unnecessary, and reminds me of the 2016 Rio Games when Nike gave people shoes that they thought gave them a 4% advantage, camouflaged them, and didn't give them to anybody else.
Well, Robert,
And
this
it's
is
just
completely different. Any runner was free to wear Viper Flays during this race.
No. But not every runner has custom
access to
with the
spikes.
spikes in the bottom. She's an NIL athlete with Nike, so she has access to them. I'm not outraged because one, she could have worn freaking trainers and still won that race. I would have been quite confident. And two, I'm not even sure Vaporflies with spikes in the bottom are any more of an advantage than regular Vaporflies or regular spikes. But I don't like the idea of one athlete in the race who happens to have an NIL contract with Nike having access to shoes that aren't available in the open market. That's not a level playing field. So moving forward, I don't like seeing that.
And the NCAA just needs to get on board. They need to follow the rules for the Olympics.
Agreed.
Because at some point they'll say, okay, this meet doesn't conform. David Minter has a point. They're made to say, well, we're not going to accept these marks, which would be crazy. But at some point, the rules are the rules. Follow them. This is one of the highest levels of the sport. There's no reason if they say you can't wear these shoes, the NCAA needs to make that the rule as well. It's not like it's some. I think,
yeah, the NCAA doesn't have different hurdle heights, so they don't run the 1,505 meters. They run the 1,500. Just get on board.
Look, I think it's a brilliant move by Nike. It's got everyone talking about the shoes, and they just do. They'll take whatever advantage they can get. They'll outsource the shoes to the, labor camps in the 1980s. They'll give Valby spikes no one else has if they can, and it's brilliant from their standpoint. It's brilliant for Valby to do it, but I just don't like it. I don't think it should be allowed, and.
Then athletes can't have prototypes. What do you mean? See, people have done this before. People have run. This isn't even a new concept. Someone's already done this. We've heard of athletes doing
When
this.
does this happen at the NCAA level? Well, then I don't remember that. I mean, maybe some schools had access to super spikes before a few other schools, but I mean that's gaps closed. All right. Do we have any final thoughts here? Because I need to get dinner before all the places shut down here in Eugene. So, any final comments?
Brenda Gomez hopes to see you too, John, tonight. Any big picture thoughts from NCAAs? All right, I just want to hear who's your biggest winner from the NCAAs, your biggest loser. Go.
Biggest winner, Joe Wascom. I mean, look at him going into this season, going into this meet. He was fourth at Pac-12s, had not been running particularly well. Now he leaves as a two-time NCAA champion in the 1500. That to me, huge winner.
I was like, Joe should have gone pro after his sophomore year, but now he's back. He's been rewarded. Great to see. To me, Parker Wolf. I mean, dude's now like, if I'm him, I might go pro right now. Never run again for UNC. See what I can get. I just took down Nico Young. I just took down a 12:56, 26 something dude. Crush him. Biggest loser? I had one, but I forgot.
I mean, is it unfair to say the other Washington guys? Those are both NCAA champions. They were 10th and 12th in the final. It's a bad showing.
What about you, Weldon?
Well, my biggest winner, I keep having to look up his name, Shane Cohen, the 800-meter sensation. That's like that. That's the guy I'm pumped for. My biggest loser, Will Sumner. Remember him? The tides change. Didn't run this meet. Will Sumner's the freshman sensation who won last year. Where is Will Sumner? Won this thing last year. 144.26. Negative split. Blew everyone away. We haven't seen him race at all this year.
He turned pro perfect time because his stock has not been higher than it was at that point. He got paid, and now he's hurt in an Olympic year. Imagine if he was, I guess he'd just come back for his junior year next year. But no, I mean, it's a bummer that he's injured, but I'm glad he cashed in when his value is the highest.
Yeah, I'm not saying he shouldn't turn pro. I think he did it. He timed it perfectly. He's exactly why you go pro. It shows why you do it, especially Adidas. Adidas loves to throw that money at the young guys. You take it every single time. If you are at all ever going to be concerned about money in your life, which most of us are. And it makes sense. And I think he still could have a really bright career and stuff. But this meet, I just sort of, I think they mentioned him, and I'm like, oh wow, this is, it just was like bummer. So.
All right, guys, this was fun. I enjoyed talking
But
track with
wait.
you. All right.
What do you mean? The sex, the white privilege and sexism is just disgusting here. We have a
There were
great
no
women's
women's
meet.
races today, apart from day one of the heptathlon. Sorry,
Well,
Robert.
no, we're acting like the meet's over. We have the women's races tomorrow, and I'm just saying, what are you most looking for? I'll break down the distance races tomorrow. What we're thinking, 800.
That's the race to watch.
But I think she's vulnerable. I keep waiting for her to go to like that thing Mo territory where no one's gonna touch her. I'm like, she's more of a sprint race runner. I'm not confident she's gonna dominate this. The two Stanford girls look good, but I don't know, man. Don't sleep in that Galvadice from Oklahoma State. She might be your winner. I think in the 1500, it was incredibly fast. I think Maya Ramsden's going to win it. I hope she knocks out the Olympic standards. She's like 4:02.53 or something. She's like barely off of it. But she's amazing. Steeplechase is interesting. Full disclosure here. On the regular podcast, I was like, Doris Lim-Golley is going to definitely win. And then when I got time to enter the Let's Run prediction contest, I was looking at Marketability, how much she's been winning these races by. Like, she won the ACC 5,000 by like 15 seconds. I'm like, no, she's got a better PB. I think she's going to win. We've never seen anything that Lim-Golley's actually a 1440 Rose girl like her. She supposedly ran last summer. And then 5,000. What's the storyline there, John?
Does Valby crush everyone and probably complete one of the greatest seasons in NCAA history, become the first woman to win 5 distance titles in one academic year? Or does she get beat in her final race of the year?
I'm stunned that no one's run 5. I would think it would happen all the time. It seemed like Abby D'Agostino won 5 all the time.
No, she doubled up 2 years in a row, but she never doubled out. It's indoors she did. I mean, you got to double up indoors and outdoors and win both of them. It doesn't happen that often on the women's side.
Yeah, but by the way, that's what I was saying. You're not paid by performance. I mean, Abby D'Agostino got hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. And what has she done as a pro? I mean, I guess she did win some sportsmanship award at the Olympics. It was prominently featured on NBC.
Made a world's team, made an Olympics team, finished 4th at the trials last time out, and is coming on and giving it another shot at the trials this year. So,
but she's not globally competitive. So I'm saying, does she deserve?
She won 7 NCAA titles. So some of the athletes get even better, and she improved as a pro. She wasn't contending for global medals, but we don't know how these people are going to do. I think someone who won 7 NCAA titles and looked like she had some potential, it's not a stupid investment, I don't think. I should say you don't know how their pro careers are going to turn out, but I don't think you can say, oh wow, New Balance was really dumb. They overpaid her. I mean, she had everything you wanted coming out of college.
Who do you think Valby will sign with?
Nike.
Where are you right now, John? What's that about?
I'm just outside the press zone. I didn't get to go up in the stands because they were still celebrating the 4x4, but so I'm behind the West Grandstand, right near the mix zone. I hope I haven't been talking loudly and ruining everyone who's working in the media area. But all right, I gotta go, guys. I gotta go eat before the kitchens close at some of these places. I'm gonna try to go to Menemen's, so I will talk to you guys later. And thanks for having me on. Fun meets a breakdown.
John says your memory is incredible, John. And David Mentor says I've made a comment that he agrees with. He's never agreed with anything I've ever said.
All right,
it's been a good
bye,
podcast.
guys.
I'm kind of worried. Like, I'm an old guy. Like, it's 1 a.m. I look tired and old. Weldon's muted himself. He doesn't even know he's so old. You're muted, Weldon. We can't hear you.
All right, Robert, I think that'll do it for the podcast today. We got the New York Mini. For those of you up early, you better go to bed right now. It's at 8 a.m. ESPN Plus.
Glenda wants another show tomorrow night. I guess we could do another show.
I talked to the 3 Olympians, U.S. Olympians in the marathon: Fiona O'Keefe, Emily Sisson, Dakota Lindblom. They're all running. Sort of crazy. I've never spoken to someone who'd actually seen the course, and they got some good quotes. They're like, "We've never seen anything like this. This is a whole nother level." And Fiona O'Keefe, slight injury, not running tomorrow. Not a great sign, but not terrible. She said it's minor. So Watch that. Oh, the New York Grand Prix on Sunday. Still a lot to come this weekend, and obviously the final day of NCAAs. All right, signing off. Till then, everybody.
Will we do a show tomorrow?